And like Donald Trump is just such a puss in comparison. Like it's not even real. Like this is a woman who has like been chased by gangs.
You're listening to Hysteria, the podcast for people who watched all 39 minutes of Trump's bizarre musical interlude at his Pennsylvania town hall and loved every second.
Did we though?
I watched it. I watched the fast-forwarded versions that became like memes on TikTok. Alyssa, as we're recording this right now, Donald J. Trump, he and Homer Simpson have the same middle name, same middle initial. Donald J. Trump is recording he's doing a live town hall with only women to demonstrate that he can be nice to women if women be nice also at him. I have some conspiracy theories about the town hall.
What do you think?
Okay, so it's on Fox News, right? And
correct.
And Trump is floundering with women right now. I think Fox is trying to help him. And here's how. I think that Donald Trump had the questions in advance.
Oh, for sure.
Because every answer seems way more prepared than every other time he's ever appeared anywhere.
Breaking news has told us that he has called himself the father of IVF? Father of IVF.
My good sir. What?
This is one of the things, Erin, because I am East Coast. I actually was in the kitchen preparing for the podcast and doing some dishes when I heard it behind me because I had turned it on. Even Winky the cat had to do a record scratch. She was like, what is this?
Oh, my. You know, the thing is, no matter how hard he prepares and no matter how many people just like lock him in a room and are like, repeat after me. This is what you say. He cannot resist just saying some bonkers shit. His brain is not well. He's an old doddering man.
He is. But you know what, though? The Fox all-lady town hall does also tell us that he's running a little scared.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
He's not doing this because he thinks he's winning right now.
No. If he thought he was winning, he would just ignore women. He would
play golf.
He would do the same thing. If he thought he was winning the week that he picked J.D. Vance to be
100%
his running mate. And J.D. Vance, if you haven't, by the way, listeners, go ahead and Google his interview with the New York Times and Lulu Garcia Navarro.
That was delightful.
It's hilarious because he just really just takes a shit in the bed, and it's also hilarious because the picture that they used with it looks like he is in the process of taking a shit on a bed.
True.
Like it's a very, very funny, unflattering portrait that they chose. He must have really turned off whoever was taking his picture because that's a picture that shows the photographer did not like you. So
it was not a compliment.
It was not a compliment. But Trump, I don't know if there's anything else to say about him. We can talk a little bit more about him, but let's get to some actual substance, even though it's fun to sort of dunk on him. Alyssa, what's Kamala Harris up to?
I am so into what Kamala Harris is doing. She is, because you know what, Erin? She's doing everything. And I appreciate that 3 weeks out from the election. And she's doing everything she can to appeal to moderate and undecided voters, which has led her to some slightly unconventional campaigning. During a Pennsylvania rally on Monday, she did not sit there and sing and sway to music. She took a page out of Trump's playbook, though, and played a highlight reel that showed her opponent's unhinged rhetoric and behavior in order to fire up her crowd, which I watched and was very successful. And also, as someone who did campaign events, like this was my bread and butter, props to the team that got the technology to work, because when they were talking about it, I was like, this is not a good idea. And it worked great. And it did make the point using his own words, which I think is always successful. But that's not all she's done. She was out last week campaigning with Liz Cheney in Wisconsin. She has agreed to do an interview with Bret Baier on Fox News this week, and has even said she plans to appoint a Republican to her cabinet. On Tuesday, Harris did an audio town hall with Charlamagne the God in Detroit that was broadcast live across 130 iHeartRadio stations nationwide, in addition to streaming on the app. And a few weeks ago, she did the Call Her Daddy podcast, Howard Stern, where she talked about her love of Formula One racing. And there's also talk about Harris perhaps even going on Joe Rogan, who, just as a reminder, said, quote, Harris nailed it against Trump in the debate in September. Into it.
Wow. I'm exhausted just listening to all that.
It's great.
Yeah, it is.
And I listened to all of the things I just talked about, and they were truly, as someone who thinks she knows something about Kamala Harris, I learned something new in every single one, which is the point.
Interesting. I found it really interesting that Howard Stern endorsed her at the end of the interview. Because as we talked about this last week on your week off, you weren't here, so.
Yep. But I listened.
But we mentioned that Howard Stern is married to an avowed cat lady.
The greatest of all cat ladies.
Greatest of all
the
cat
most
ladies.
benevolent of cat ladies.
She's like the patron saint of taking care of
100%.
cats. And so it's not a surprise in that regard, because I feel like maybe he's grown since the 90s. But I also want to point out that Donald Trump was a frequent guest on Howard Stern back in the day.
And at their wedding.
Yeah.
He was at their wedding.
He was like, they were friends, or maybe they're probably not friends anymore, but they were friends. And so it is a big deal that Howard Stern endorsed Kamala Harris and said that he was going to vote for her. I also found her appearance on the Call Her Daddy podcast to be really good.
Really good. You know what I think, Erin, that I like, from Charlamagne the God to, which, little known fact, I did an interview once with Charlamagne.
Oh, I was on a panel with him once.
It's really
when
funny.
MTV was trying to do like news stuff, I was on a panel with him. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that's what I did.
Yeah.
And the thing about it is that whether she was on Howard Stern, whether she was with Charlamagne, taking questions from listeners, she is so comfortable. She is so conversant. And, you hear a little bit of like squawking that people are like, oh, she's doing this conservative stuff. Here's the thing. She's not saying different things. She's not making up a different shtick for Howard Stern or for Charlamagne the God than she was on Call Her Daddy or any of the progressive podcasts that she's done. I just think that it shows that she is, unlike so many politicians we see, utterly fucking confident and competent and able to take questions for anybody. I mean, she was so cool as a cucumber with Howard Stern. I found it really not comforting, but I was like really proud. I was like, she's killing it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she did a good job. One thing I think that this strategy says, and I realize the irony of me pointing this out on a podcast that talks so much about politics, and people who are listening are probably listening because they're like, I care about politics. The fact that candidates have to go out and find voters shows how many young voters are absolutely fleeing political media. Like, they do not, they're just like, I do not want to hear, like, they go to Call Her Daddy had like a minor riot in their TikTok and like their comments after the interview aired, because people were so mad that politics assailed their precious safe space of just talking about fucking or whatever. And again, like, no shade to Call Her Daddy. I'm not the intended audience of that pod. But I feel like it just speaks to the fact that, like, the people who pay attention to politics already know who they're going to vote for, and they've known since the beginning of the campaign. And Harris taking Joe Biden's place I almost said Joe Rogan's place.
I know.
At the top of the ticket, didn't change who they were going to vote for whatsoever. But the people that they're going after are people that are maybe like, I'm not motivated to vote. I avoid politics. But like, just because you avoid politics doesn't mean politics avoids you. And I think that is a point that Harris has made really well in her appearances during her Breakfast Club interview. She talked about entrepreneurship, and she talked about small business loans. Every single place she's appeared, she has talked about a plan that she has that specifically addresses the needs of the audience of that pod. And I think that it's just a testament to her campaign. I think they're doing a really good job with her, and I think she's doing a great job too. And also, I'm like, God, this is why somebody with like trial lawyer experience, like someone she's been a prosecutor, you know what I mean? Someone who's got that experience can be such a good politician.
And it was the one. It's just funny that you say that, because Howard Stern was really interested in talking about her years as a prosecutor, and I just think about whether it was then or when she was Attorney General, that I had put it together, not entirely, like when she said in that debate how she had a gun. And then she talked about the transnational gangs that she had gone after. And of course, there had been death threats and she had come after her. And like, Donald Trump is just such a puss in comparison. Like, it's not even real. Like, This is a woman who has
Can we
been chased by gangs. And he's just like on the golf course or getting his questions fed to him for a lady town hall on Fox News. It's like, it's so not a competition in my view right now. I mean, it is, of course, but it shouldn't be, I guess is my point.
It is ridiculous. And we're doing research right now on this fucking guy about Donald Trump parts 2 and 3, which has been a monster undertaking. And I feel like I'm going to lose my mind. But I was reminded the other day in writing the script that Donald Trump has said of exercise that the human body is like a battery. And if you exercise too much, it runs
Drain
out.
the battery.
Right. And he says his favorite form of exercise is golfing, but he rides a golf cart around the golf course. So he's not really exercising. So, yeah. And also I wanted to point out that I know that people have been like, pussies are tough. I think it's a Betty White quote that like a pussy can take a pounding or whatever. I feel like we should start calling wimpy people ball sacks. Because you even flick one of those and it just completely, it doesn't go well for the ball sack.
Fair.
That is the wimpiest part of the human body is the ball sack. You get in a tussle with a ball sack,
you know what?
You're going to win.
They talk about it a lot on this season of Love is Blind.
Oh my God. I will talk more about Love is Blind.
We will.
Later on in the show. Alyssa, is there anything you think Harris is missing with this media strategy?
I really don't. I think that, look, we have seen Bernie Sanders. Look, Bernie Sanders has been on Fox News a ton. Mayor Pete has been on Fox News a ton. I think that by going on Fox, it's like, I think you want to be able to say on election day that you ran through the tape, that you left no stone unturned. And she is doing events. She is doing media. She's doing local interviews. She is stopping, there's a... How would Pluff used to say it? It was, you want ground truth, right? And she's getting ground truth right now. She's doing events. She's stopping in small businesses, unscripted, talking to local people, understanding what's affecting them, and then using it in her campaign speeches. And so I think that in terms of what else she could be doing, she just needs to keep doing all of this for the next 3 weeks.
And meanwhile, Vice Presidential nominee Tim Walz has jokes. I don't know if you saw the appearance that he made. He's been all over Wisconsin, Minnesota, the Midwest. And he told a joke the other day about the on-camera staged incident where Donald Trump handed a woman in a grocery store a $100 bill. And Walz was like, of course he sees a woman, he automatically thinks he needs to pay her off.
Not even a dad joke, just an objectively good joke.
Whoever's writing for him is doing a good job. Whether that's him, whether that is a staffer, whoever is working on his
10
material is doing a really good job. Here's another thing I want to say about Harris before we move on to talking about Trump's tribulations in the desert, much like I think that Travis, former Crooked Media employee, posted this on his Instagram story, and I completely agree. And it was one of those, in this house, we believe style signs. And it said, in this house, we believe, we agree with whatever Kamala Harris has to say to appeal to moderate and conservative voters until election day, and then we engage in critique of what she's saying. Which
is fine.
Yeah.
That's the whole point.
I 100%.
Listen, in the Obama administration, people started protesting days after Inauguration Day. Protest. Do your thing. Just pick the person who you can actually protest and who might listen to you.
Right.
And not the person who will send the National Guard out after you.
Right. Am I going to whine about one Republican being in the cabinet? Because the alternative is 13 Republicans in the cabinet.
Also, who cares?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, I'm sure a lot of people have opinions that I said I don't care. We had Republicans. Ray LaHood was our Secretary of Transportation. Mm-hmm. He was a Republican. He was lovely. He did no harm. He kept transportation going.
Right. Would you rather have Secretary of Energy Liz Cheney or Secretary of Defense Cat Turd? That's the choice on the table, okay? So sorry, progressives. You don't walk into it like an Italian restaurant and be like, I want a taco. It's like this is what's on the menu. You have a cat,
and we're never gonna have someone who we agree with 100%.
But that is part of democracy. You have 330 million people. And we have to pick one person to be at the top of the pyramid, right? And that's them's the breaks. It's never going to be.
And it's funny too, Erin, because one of the criticisms of her is that she has changed opinions on things over time. That's what we want. When you know better, you do better.
Right.
When you learn more, you may change your opinion. And I think that it's a wild criticism. I think it's a wild criticism sometimes. Because I would certainly hope that is acceptable. That
Absolutely.
when you learn more, you can think differently.
You can think differently in a way that reflects the fact that you've learned more. I think that Donald Trump's flip-flopping reflects the fact that he just saw people react poorly to something, and now he's just pulling shit out of his ass in a way that he thinks will make fewer people mad.
That's an excellent point, though, too, because I'd rather someone tell me the truth about what they think, and they're not just going to change when they go on a different podcast or when they're in front of a different audience. It's like, look, I'm not going to agree with her 100% of the time, but at least I know she's fucking telling the truth.
And early voting has started in a dozen states, I believe. Georgia is already shattering records, which we're not going to rest on any laurels whatsoever. If Harris is going to win this, it needs to be thundering and definitive. And so there is no taking your feet off the gas between now and Election Day and possibly after. And you know what, listeners, a reminder, if you live in a state where you can vote early, today is a great day to do that. Whenever you're listening to this, today is a great day to vote early. We get our ballots automatically in the mail in California. When I get home today, I'm going to fill mine out, and we're going to take our family walk to the ballot drop box, and we're going to drop it off, as is our tradition. Please, if you can vote early, please do so, especially if you live in a swing state. If you have family in a swing state, get in touch with them and be like, hey, when you voting? What are
you going to do? Take someone to the polls.
Real easy. Even if you're too shy to do canvassing, or you don't want to phone bank, or you don't want to text or whatever, I completely respect that. Just reach out to people who you already know. Do some little warm canvassing where you talk to people you already know and make sure that they've got a voting plan, because, God, we need every single one of you. We need all of the votes. Okay, so between Coachella Valley and Madison Square Garden, Trump's rally locations are looking more like tour stops for pop star. Well, I would say pop star is taking it. Tour stops for like an arena comedian.
Okay, fair.
Like a corny leather jacket arena comedian who tells it like it is. But his stop in the desert this weekend was not as glamorous as the Coachella that you normally see on Instagram. Thousands of supporters were bussed into Calhoun Ranch, which sounds like a place that the Manson family would have lived, for the rally. And Caroline over there is
she would know.
She's the Manson family expert. She's just smiling secretively, as is her wont as a Scorpio. They're bussed into Calhoun Ranch for the rally, but were left stranded in sweltering conditions for hours without transit back, after a man was caught going into the rally carrying a bunch of stuff he shouldn't have been carrying, a gun and fake IDs and stuff.
Some stuff.
Yeah, some stuff he shouldn't have had. Turned out he was a Trump supporter, probably wasn't going to do anything, but
who knows?
Who knows? He neglected to acknowledge the transportation meltdown at the rally, but he did claim that there were over 100,000 people in attendance, despite the county permit capping the event at 15,000. Okay. Trump, a liar about crowd size? Impossible. Impossible.
Come on.
Conspiracy theory about the lack of busing back, Alyssa, and having the parking lot 5 miles away is so Trump could prevent people from leaving his rallies, because Kamala Harris's comment during the debate about people leaving the rallies has gotten so under his skin that he is now willing to throw his entire voting base under the bus in order to remedy it.
I'll see your conspiracy theory and just raise you in competence, because he's done this before. Omaha 2020, he did the same thing. And I don't even think that's the only time. I just remember Omaha because it was hundreds of people were stranded again.
And it was freezing cold. It's here's the thing. Guys, he doesn't care about you. He doesn't care about you.
At all.
He doesn't care about it.
Even a little. He cares so much more about what Howard Stern thinks about him than what any one of his supporters thinks about him.
Yeah. Alyssa, California hasn't voted Republican since 1988. And you know what? We're just going to call the 80s a wash. And Harris has a 27% lead in the state. So why is Trump holding rallies like this in blue states?
Erin, so glad you asked. Because I want everyone to know how pathetic he is. Because at this stage of the game, he should still be trying to do some level of persuasion, some level of GOTV. But here's the thing. he only cares about his crowd sizes. And he has like saturated the places where most of his supporters live, right? How many times can he go to South Carolina and people wait 4 hours to get into a rally? Like, they're just not going to do that. And so now he's just going places where he hasn't been in hopes that every Trumper in 400 miles is going to take the day, drive down, get on a bus, be wheeled to some, be driven to some site and do that. But it's so not like a real strategy. Like, the strategy behind it is literally just to make him feel good. That's it. And that when he goes on, when they cover him on Fox News and Newsmax, they're like, here Donald Trump is with another 10,000 person rally. But it doesn't matter if, like, it's not a real strategy. It's a feel good for him strategy. It's not a win the election strategy.
Mm-hmm. It reminds me of what he said during a deposition. This is like a really deep cut. But when journalist Tim O'Brien was being sued by Donald Trump over his claim that he wasn't as rich as he said he was, Tim O'Brien wrote a book saying that Trump really over exaggerated his wealth. They asked Donald Trump during the deposition how rich he actually was, and Trump said that it very depended on how he felt. Like, he felt, and to me,
is that how it works?
I feel like
because when I look at my bank account, it tells me what it says.
Yeah, those are numbers. Those are numbers. Those aren't feelings. Those are numbers. And my number is sad face. No, I'm just kidding. I'm doing fine. But Donald Trump, I feel like, bases his own self-esteem, like his black hole of an ego that is never ever satisfied and sucks everything into it. How he feels about himself is how he thinks he's doing in the election. Like, it has no,
I think that's right.
It's completely, and I think that he believes and his team believes that if he projects confidence in himself, he's more likely to win. And so maybe this is some kind of strategy to be like, he's got to feel good, otherwise he's going to look like a tired loser. And he, even though he's doing all of this like ego filleting rallies, he's still appearing like a tired old man in other appearances. Like, if he is, like you said, Alyssa, anything after 4 p.m. and he's not all there.
He's swaying to Lee Greenwood.
Yeah, the wrinkles in his brain go to bed every night at 4 p.m. and he just is not. He's not all there. And in another thing about his rallies in Erie, Pennsylvania. In the rally where he did his little morning zoo DJ audition. The reason that they stopped the questions is the campaign line is the reason he stopped the questions is because people fainted. But the reason people fainted is because they didn't turn on the AC. People were asking to turn on the AC. Donald Trump is still doing the Donald Trump thing of stiffing and cutting corners.
100%.
He still the campaign still owes the city of St. Cloud, Minnesota, $200,000 in reimbursements for
across the country.
Yeah, across the country, he has like all these unpaid bills, and he's still just like giving people the middle finger as he leaves town, and people are still willing to support him. It is truly wild. Alyssa, do you think that people are going to stop wanting to attend Donald Trump rallies because of all of these safety hazards and disasters, or do you think?
I think that because of his strategy, right, which is the biggest events in places that he hasn't been, I think that, his diehard people will still go. But I think that the value of what he's doing diminishes event after event. Because if you're just going to places where you can't possibly win, but it just makes you feel good, then no. And I also think too that if you're an older person, I mean, truly, it's it's listening to like that rally in Pennsylvania was so crazy because Barack Obama, Bernie Sanders, like these are things I witnessed with my own eyes. Barack Obama being like, everybody, it's hot outside, bend your knees. We had cooling stations, we had water. It is a proof point that he does not care about his supporters.
He doesn't care about his supporters.
He doesn't care at all.
Or his most valuable and important surrogates, like Kristi Noem.
That was, Erin, can we please?
Okay, if you haven't watched this footage, please
watch
pause and watch it right now. The woman on stage who looks like she's auditioning to be a cast member on The Five.
Or a DJ at a Bad Sweet 16.
Yeah, the woman on stage with the Utah curls is Kristi Noem, the governor of South Dakota, the puppy killer. And honestly, watching her on stage, awkwardly try to not knowing what to do, trying to wrangle Trump during the time that he's like, play the music, watching them on stage is so funny because it's like Kristi Noem deserves all of the embarrassing moments that she can have publicly. She is a complete shell of a person, a political opportunist who used her first sniff of fame, and she goes direct to trying to get boys' attention by talking about how she killed a dog. Yeah, it's really funny to watch her just be like, what am I supposed to do? And there's one part where Trump goes like off. He's like, oh, give these people a hand. And Kristi Noem is like, their son Michael died.
Yeah. So she's like, but also Erin, the music, like, look, I know he's gotten cease and desists from so many people that there's not a lot of music he can play. Mm-hmm. But for a campaign that has really doubled down on the childless cat lady, playing music from Cats the Musical really was an amazing choice.
Memory. Like, it's that one. And then also Nothing Compares to You, but not the Sinead O'Connor version. A cover version of...
she'd have haunted him from the grave.
She would have 100% come back as a banshee. And but one thing I want to point out, I want to flag, Axl Rose is a woke rocker. There's a whole genre of woke rockers who were tweeting like, Donald Trump, you suck, like back in 2016 and on. And Axl Rose was one of those. He once posted a picture of his stamped ballot, not filled out. We could just see that it was stamped. And he was going to send it, and he said, "Vote blue." So like Axl Rose, I think, should be telling him to not use November Rain. November Rain's also a weird one.
A weird one. Like, also, might surprise you, huge GNR fan.
Yeah, really?
Yeah, I love Guns N' Roses.
Oh my God. I mean, I do too. They're a really good band.
Do you know what my new station in the rotation in the Subaru is?
What?
Hair Nation.
Oh,
yeah,
that's
it's
nice.
Really good.
That's nice.
Good.
I think Axl Rose would endorse that and condemn Trump using their music because, come on, man.
Literally Cold November Rain. Why don't they just play?
Nothing lasts forever.
No, Erin, what's the Counting Crows song that's so sad?
Mr.
December?
Jones? Oh, Long December.
Long December. That's if that's up next in the rotation, we'll know he's sundowning.
Yeah, I feel like if my next door neighbor were playing music very loudly and the playlist included Ave Maria, Memory from the musical Cats, November Rain, and Nothing Compares to You, I would call for a wellness check.
Absolutely.
Because those are the songs of a person who realizes that something is coming to an end. Whether they realize it at the front of their mind or whether it's a subconscious realization, they understand in their soul that something is winding down. Something's coming to an end. And I just, I don't want the police traffic on my block, so please don't do anything rash, neighbor listening to this music. Okay, let's really quickly, I want to give a shout out to two Senate races, Wisconsin, Montana, and Nevada. The Republicans in all three of these states that are running for Senate are clowns.
Clowns.
Like absolute clowns. The Cook Political Report shifted Wisconsin Senate race to toss-up status, which is absurd.
It's absurd.
Tammy Baldwin is a gentlewoman and a saint. And
public servant to her core.
To her core, has done so much to help the people of Wisconsin, has worked across the aisle to get things done for her constituents. She is an incredible public servant, and her lead against Trump-backed Californian Eric Hovde has shrunk from 7 to just 2 points since August, according to the Decision Desk. He is running on a platform that includes cutting Medicare and Social Security, raising the retirement age. Wisconsin is a graying state, and $4 trillion in tax breaks for the ultra wealthy. We cannot afford that. He's a ridiculous person. He's not out for the people of Wisconsin. And if Tammy Baldwin exits the Senate, Wisconsin will have the dumbest combined IQ of all the senators. I'm going to say that. Even dumber than Alabama, because Tommy Tuberville drags that down, but I think Katie Britt is actually kind of smart.
She's not dumb.
She's no slouch.
She's just bad.
She's just a empty person. Although Donald Trump did make sure to mention that she was attractive during his all-woman town hall.
Of course he did.
Yeah, because that's what women want to hear. Men telling them they're attractive or that another woman is attractive. In Montana, Republican Senate candidate Tim Sheehy is set on destroying the Department of Education.
A tenant of Project 2025,
Yes.
so not shocking.
He wants to return faith and family to the classroom. And I guess by that, it sounds like he wants 11-year-olds to start having kids. Like,
For God's sake.
we got to start building families in these classrooms. He's anti-college. He has referred to his constituents as a bunch of overeducated, unemployable nincompoops. I do appreciate the use of the word
someone who really
nincompoops.
believes in his politics.
Yeah,
I mean,
really-
in his constituents.
Really
rather.
loves his constituents. When you go into a job interview, what you want to do is be like, I hate fucking everyone who works here, especially the people interviewing me for this job.
And I hate what you make.
And I hate what you make. He also wants more school choice, which is code for unregulated homeschooling in charter schools. He's leading John Tester by 7 points, which is very concerning, very alarming. Montanans, come on. You can do better.
Come on. Here's the thing that's so crazy about this is that I feel like some of this is happening because it's a presidential year and things like Senate races have become less local and more national, if that makes sense. Because John Tester and Tammy Baldwin are like the greatest representatives for their communities. You know, like they care. They're part of them. Like John Tester of all people. You know,
He's
and like
missing part of his finger because of a farming accident.
Like just come on.
Everybody who grew up in a rural area knows at least one guy that's like a half-finger farmer guy.
Of course,
You know?
and he's our half-finger farmer, and I think that is the problem. But also, polling, whatever. I appreciate the New York Times Siena poll. I want to see what the Montanans have to say. You know?
Yeah.
We can't give up. We can't give up. I think when these polls start coming out, you know, people start thinking, well, okay, I'm not going to help Tester. I'll help someone else. And like, if you're in Montana, I think you should get out and help your boy John Tester.
Yeah. But one upside surprise is Deb Fischer in Nebraska is
this is good news.
a surprisingly embattled Republican. She is behind in polls. So it's just all hands on deck until election
All hands
day.
on deck.
And
it's 3 more weeks. We've made it this far.
I just got to say, my daughter's 3rd birthday is the day after Election Day.
Yes, it is.
And
Yes, it is.
The amount of mental strength it is going to be to have to like compartmentalize whatever happens on Tuesday because it's probably not going to be finished by Wednesday. I am, oh man, I don't know what I'm going to do.
You and I will just be doing karaoke in that week's episode.
Should I just like hire someone dressed up like Spider-Man to come over and play and like hang out with her all day? Because I think that I don't know if I think I'm just going to be catatonic. I don't know, man.
We have no expectations.
We're nervous. I'm nervous AF. But let's close with some good news, Alyssa.
Erin, early voting started, as you mentioned, in Georgia this week. And President Jimmy Carter got to live out his final dream of voting for Kamala Harris. The American hero turned 100 years old at the beginning of the month and has been in hospice care for over a year. Erin, we love Jimmy Carter.
We love Jimmy Carter.
Also, can I just say something?
What?
So the horrible man in Wisconsin and the horrible man in Montana, the ones who want to get rid of the Department of Education, Jimmy Carter established the Department of Education and the Department of Energy. Just saying.
Wow.
The most very important things. We have a grid that needs tending to. We have schools that could be better.
Yeah. Yeah, we could be better at being smart in this country, I think, as the fact that this race is close indicates heavily. I do want to close on some other good news really quick. So Jimmy Carter, 100 years old, super senior citizen, right? Kamala Harris is on track to possibly be the first Democrat to win senior citizens.
That's amazing.
Yeah, because the boomers are better than Gen X. Oh, I'm sorry. Gen X is really...
What do you mean?
Gen X is really fucking up, Alyssa.
What the fuck? Why is it always my fault?
I know. It's not your fault.
I can't win.
It's not your fault. But if you take a look at the demographics that support Donald Trump the most ardently, it is people who didn't go to college that are between like 50 and 65. And those are Gen Xers, older Gen Xers.
All right.
Get your people. Get your people. Get your people.
Come on.